TARP?
No.
Or for any of the stimulus packages?
No. I don't really want to explain. The answer is no. The government, when it gets involved, it has a negative reaction. It's what I call the theory of unintended consequences. They have an idea to do something positive, it comes out negative. They have an idea of growing an economy, it comes out that they're stimulating the deficit. The government needs to be smaller. It needs to be tighter. It needs to be on the mission of the Constitution, not on the mission of saving everybody. So plainly speaking, no. They have no business in TARP, no business in the economic stimulus package, no business in a lot of things that they do. Turning back the clock on some of these programs may be somewhat difficult, but I'd sure like to try. Thank you, Frank.
Do you believe energy independence is compatible with free trade?
Yeah, definitely I do. By the way, in terms of energy independence, there's a great resource in the Bakken platform in Dakota, Central States, and you need to have oil at $50 a barrel for it to be profitable for these companies to use the technology to get to that oil. Well, oil's at $75 a barrel now. And I'm told by a good friend of mine that this Bakken platform is now being explored more and more because they can extract the oil at a higher cost, but because gasoline costs more and the products cost more, it makes economic sense for these companies to do that. I think the free market can solve a lot of problems if it's left to be free and unencumbered by government.
What immediate actions need to be taken to turn the economy around and stabilize the dollar?
Get out of our way. Again, smaller government, less government. I always say that if the government would get out of the way of the small businesses that create jobs, there would be a burst of economic activity. Lower taxes, eliminate the estate tax, perhaps move to a fair tax. Get out of our business, get out of our way, stop over-regulating us. That's the reason why we're in the problem that we're in. Get out of our way. And the entrepreneurial spirit of Americans will then come really ripe and strong.
Do you believe it is politically possible to undo the entitlements bankrupting this country? If so, what course would you recommend to undo this legislation?
You know something? That's a very, very good question. And let's talk about Social Security. We know that if we were to fund the obligations right now, it costs us approximately $45 trillion, is what I'm told. And I'm told by a friend of mine that I discussed this Social Security problem with, that this government, this country, is not going to do anything until the system is almost in collapse. That's the way we do things. We wait till things collapse. And then the people who are supposed to have political will finally develop the political will because there's no other way out. I would like to say that think that we have enough political will to make changes in advance of catastrophe. One of the things that I would suggest with regard to Social Security is that people can opt out of what I call the public system for a discounted payoff, as I call in real estate. You have a certain amount in your account, you get an indication of it every year, and based upon your age, and based upon the amount in that account, you can take a payment from the government, write a check, and then that money would go into an IRA, KEO, or other private system over time. I'd like to think that that would gain some steam if I were in Congress. In that case, you're off the public dole. If you become old, you got to rely upon your own system of retirement, your self-retirement system, and not the Social Security system of retirement. I don't know if we have the political will to do it. I would try my best to implement it and to do it, but I just don't know.
That's your question.
On the Constitution, what do you believe the federal government's role is regarding the Second Amendment?
Second Amendment allows bearing of arms. I don't know what its role is other than by stipulating that we can do such pursuant to the Second. I think that it should be further inferred that the states should take up the ball with regard to what that means. You know, as we know in the Constitution, the 10th Amendment says anything not in the Constitution is up to the state. So I believe that the state should deal with the issue, but the Constitution, the Second Amendment, makes it very clear that we may bear arms.
What are your thoughts regarding the Patriot Act?
That's a very good question. You have to balance the security of this country with the rights of people to not be intruded with. You know, in terms of wiretapping and things of that nature. Look, I think that first and foremost, we have to defend this country, but we have to be very careful that in so doing, there's a short leash on the intrusion for intelligence to do that. I know that may sound like a hedge, but I'm sorry. I do think we have to defend the country first and foremost, but be very careful about how we go about doing it.
Do you believe a state has the right to nullify a federal law?
Well, if it's a law which is created illegally and against the Constitution, sure. I think that the state has a right. States have the right to bring that issue to the Supreme Court, which is what's happening now with the health care. Absolutely. This is happening all the time, but the federal government is telling the states what to do, what not to do, all illegally, in my opinion. It's all a power grab on the federal part. We have to give that power back to the states, and the states have the court systems to try to interpret that.
What are your feelings on the Kelo eminent domain case?
I don't exactly know what that, I don't recall what that case is. Let me give you my feeling about eminent domain in general. Again, it's got to have a short leash. We have property rights. The Constitution talks about property rights. We have to be very, very careful about takings. Takings have become way too broad. The definition of what's in the public interest of takings has become way too broad. So that, although I do believe in eminent domain, it has to be very narrow.
Just so you know, Kelo was London and Iceland.
That was New London case.